You don't have to be an expert on video games or even someone who works in the industry to look around and see the reckoning that is coming. From the death of physical games to constant price hikes and endless layoffs, the current state of the video game industry is very different than the one we saw even just a few years ago. What we're seeing isn't just the result of corporate greed or subpar sales performance, it's a complete course correction, resulting from years of bad decisions and completely ignoring what customers have been asking for. Chances are, if you're someone who plays video games in the year 2026, you've probably been disappointed more often than not by what your once favorite studios have put out. And while it's easy to say big company bad whenever we hear about industry layoffs, I do think the truth is a lot more uncomfortable and nuanced than people would like to admit. Most modern game studios have become massively bloated versions of their former selves, and from the outside looking in, they don't really do much of anything these days. Take a look at Halo Studios, whose most recent release is a remake of a 25-year-old game that was already re-released twice before, only this time with less content. By current estimates, Halo Studios employs anywhere from 200 to 500 employees, and you might be thinking that's not that bad for a franchise as big as Halo, but it's important to take a look at who actually works here and what they do on a day-to-day basis. There are 5 people listed in the esports department over at Halo Studios, but Halo hasn't had any esports events in years, and the last multiplayer Halo game that came out was more than 5 years ago with Halo Infinite. The only thing I could find that they're probably working on is the HCS YouTube channel, which has Halo Infinite clip compilations, the latest of which was uploaded 5 months ago. And when you look at average salaries for these positions, they're paying over $500,000 for these people to basically do nothing for years on end. And it's not just the esports department either. If you take a look at the writing credits for Halo Campaign Evolved, there are 4 writers listed here. Again, this is for a 25-year-old game being remade. The entire main narrative of the game is unchanged, and the only additional story content here is the terminals and the maybe 2 hours of bonus missions if I'm being generous, so it's very difficult to see why they needed 4 people to work on that. On top of that, they completely outsourced every other aspect of Campaign Evolved to other studios. The level design, cutscenes, and gameplay systems were all outsourced. So what the hell were the other 200 to 500 people at the studio even doing? Project Ecker is cancelled, so they're not working on that, and it's even more egregious when you consider that the OG Bungie team that worked on Halo 3 consisted of around 150 people total. That's the size of the team that made the most successful game in the franchise's history. So why does Halo Studios need several times that plus 4 outsourcing studios to do basically nothing? Unfortunately, this trend of doing the bare minimum is the norm for most modern game studios. The average employee is not sitting at these studios doing 3D modeling for assets, programming the game's major systems, or doing anything remotely of value to the company. Perhaps the worst example of this is the complete butchering of the producer and quality assurance roles across modern game studios. Over at Bethesda and ZeniMax, recently laid off employees were interviewed while protesting outside.
Morale is really low because, we've been told that we're making great games that players love and that we're doing well, and to have this suddenly hit us has been a huge shock to us.
It sucks.
We make all kinds of games, all kinds of people love.
It'd be really nice if we could just get back to work and make them games that will define a generation of video gaming.
I worked at ZeniMax for about 5 years. We are having a march and a rally to demand dignity and respect and an end to the cycle of layoffs.
Now, if we take a look at the first guy from the video's LinkedIn, he lists himself as a producer over at Bethesda Game Studios. So what does that entail? Well, let's see. His day-to-day responsibilities included scheduling programmer work in Jira, tracking metrics on that work in Excel, and messaging people on Slack. So basically doing nothing of importance and getting in the way of actual development. This contributes to one of those 14 layers of management that Asha Sharma mentioned in her Xbox Reset memo. And when you look at the credits on Starfield, the game that he cites on his LinkedIn profile, even if you exclude the lead producer roles, there are over 30 producers credited on that game alone. Now, if you take the average salary for that area and that position, that creates an annual labor cost of over $3 million a year for the producers alone. That is an absolutely insane and unsustainable amount of money. You cannot spend tens of millions of dollars per game on people whose entire job description consists of slacking programmers to tell them what to work on. You will never recoup your investment on that, and I'm sorry, but I find it very difficult to feel bad for these people when they have had it so easy for so many years. In the interview I showed, they talked about corporate greed and how they just want to get back to making great games that people want. But personally, I find this statement to be pretty manipulative, considering none of these people have ever worked on the games that these studios made that were successful. They don't make games people love. The only game that most of the people in this video have worked on is Starfield or Fallout 76, the two worst regarded Bethesda games in recent memory. Meanwhile, fans have been begging for a new mainline Elder Scrolls or Fallout game for 15 years now, so I'm not trying to be overly cruel, but when you look at what these people have actually worked on, or even scroll through some of their professional portfolios, all they have to show for these years of work is a bunch of poorly made games with no vision or actual demonstration of talent whatsoever. You can only sit around and not make games for so long at a game studio before the bill comes due, and unfortunately, that's what's happening across most of the industry. It isn't corporate greed or changing player habits, it's an industry that has completely ignored what customers give them money to do in the first place. And many of these studios are sustained only by the success of decade-old games that most of their team members have never worked on. They have no understanding of what their players actually want or enjoy, and are just enjoying the benefits of having a past hit. If Bethesda didn't have Skyrim money, they probably wouldn't still be around. Same goes for studios like Rockstar with GTA 5 and many others, and I think they're finally starting to learn that success doesn't last forever, and players aren't going to just blindly accept these costs of lazy game development being passed on to them year after year with nothing to show for it. So what does this industry-wide reset mean for players? Well, it's difficult to say. If comments from people like Asha Sharma are anything to go by, it means finally responding to what players actually want. That means giving us more games in our favorite franchises, shorter waits between games, and reduced studio bloat, so games can actually be profitable again. Hopefully this also means a shift away from the agenda-driven game development to hiring people whose passion is actually making great games that people love, not sending a couple of Slack messages and calling it a day while collecting their six-figure salary. For developers, though, it likely means a much tougher job market. I think the industry is going to prioritize leaner, more agile development teams, and that means newer developers are going to have a harder time proving themselves for entry-level roles. I also think we're going to see a lot of the middle management and less valuable roles like the previously mentioned producers slowly be eliminated. For the rest of the industry, I'd expect to see more consolidation and studio shutdowns, especially when it comes to studios that don't really have any legacy IPs to hold on to. So all of this sounds good in theory, but only time will tell if this will actually give players what we've been asking for so long. That's going to do it for this video though, guys. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the current state of the games industry below, and whether or not you think this reset will result in an overall healthier, better video games industry for everyone. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. I would greatly appreciate it. And with all of that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.